We've now come to the high point of our annual conferences, the Lourdes Fernandes Oration. Well, this year it is the 11th oration, and sometimes it's difficult to believe that so many years have passed by. A lot of you have heard the story of my mother's life, but there are new faces every year, and it is certainly a privilege to talk about this grand lady who left us a legacy, and that's why we're here today. I do believe, and I've always said this, there are defining moments in our lives. And I guess for her it was when she graduated as a young doctor. And if some of you see my niece who's here, she's very much like my mom. She looks very much like her. And of course, the second was to marry my dad, and the third to have the 4 kids. And you can guess where I am. And another important time was when they began the hospital in 1948 as a young doctor and with 2 beds. Not sure of what was going to happen, how they were going to build up a practice. And another defining moment, and for which I'm eternally grateful, is when on her 75th birthday, she and my father laid the foundation stone for Unit 1, after having seen their baby that they had built over 40 years completely demolished, not sure what their crazy daughter was going to do. And remember, they belonged to a generation that never borrowed money. So for my parents to understand that I was taking a bank loan, building this hospital, was very, very frightening. But they were amazingly generous with their support. And of course, she was very popular as a grandma. And that's a tremendous sense of fun that she had. And my parents enjoyed almost 50 years. My father passed away a few months before their 50th wedding anniversary. And my mother continued to come to see an antenatal clinic on a Monday, played bridge, watched tennis, watched cricket. And when she was 81, she phoned me and said, "Darling, I think I'd like to now stop coming across." And that year, I got her registered for computer classes, and after that, nothing could stop her. She was in touch with her friends, whom she visited when she was 83. So she lived a full life, and this is not going forward, and when she lost her only son at the age of 36, my brother, and her husband later, she bounced back. It was her tremendous resilience that I always admired, her capacity to come back. And of course, this is a picture of my mom with her daughters and her granddaughters. And finally, the reason why we decided we would have this oration was to pay tribute to this woman who lived life to the full and spent her entire professional life trying to make it safe for mothers and babies. Started at an era when she didn't have all the knowledge and the access to knowledge that we have today, but has left us with a tremendous responsibility. So, the first oration, we had Professor Philpott of Partogram fame, and it was an amazing experience for me because he's been a tremendous mentor in my life and continues to be so. The second, of course, was Professor Shanti, who, as you know, has changed fetal medicine with his imaging. And then we had Stephen Gatt from Australia, an anesthetist, and Professor David James, whose books you have read, and Professor Catherine, again, brought in with obstetric medicine, and Professor Eves, again, of fetal medicine, and Dr. Raymond Powry, And of course, Peter Sand, who ran his lecture from Chicago, from his room, and we had it transmitted here very clearly. And Dr. Piley, that was 2 years ago, and last year we had Professor Leslie Page, the president of the Royal College of Midwifery. If you notice, each of these individuals, why were they asked? Because each one of them has given of themselves to make the world a little better for women, for babies, and they've put all their passion into their work. So it isn't surprising that we have Dr. Sandra Low with us today, who has spent the last 2 decades and more investing of herself into making pregnancy safer for women, for saving lives, not just the mothers, and also in turn impacting the outcome for their babies. So it is certainly a pleasure and a privilege for me to introduce her today to you, ladies and gentlemen. She's a consultant obstetric physician at the Royal Hospital for Women and conjoint associate professor at the University of New South Wales, Australia. Professor Low specializes in medical disorders of pregnancy, and we've heard her the last 2 days. And over 2 decades, she's been helping women, including beginning with hyperemesis and going on to disorders of liver, brain, whatever. She has a long-standing interest in teaching, and during the course of one of our conversations, she said she enjoys teaching, particularly obstetric medicine, to students, nurses, midwives, and of course, physicians and obstetricians. She spearheaded and wrote the national guidelines on the management of hypertension in pregnancy and contributed chapters to a number of textbooks of obstetric medicine. She's the founding co-editor of the International Journal of Obstetric Medicine and has had long-standing executive roles with both local and international societies of obstetric medicine. And right now, she is currently the president of the International Society of Obstetric Medicine. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Sandra Low, who will deliver the oration today, and she will talk about renal failure and pregnancy, all in the timing. Can we have her on, please?